Atana was there. Now, I know this might not mean anything to you, but if we're trying to figure out when things happened and how we place things, you'll learn if we go back that there was a legend of Atana, which is a tablet that talked about how there's an ancient king of Atana who was the first king after these cities had been destroyed in a great catastrophe and they had to rebuild the new world. Atana was supposed to be the first king of the new world from a city called Kish. But when Gilgamesh goes, Atana's already dead. Atana's already is a ghost. He says the ghost of Atana. So what I'm trying to say is we now can like lay this all out. We know that Shuruppak was part of the first cities ever created. Then we know that Atana ruled at another time period when civilization tried to reemerge again. And then we know that Gilgamesh came far after that. So see what I'm saying here?
Yes.
Now we're like putting the whole thing together. And the tablets are revealing their secrets if we know where to look. Okay? So the question is, what happened to Ziusudra? And I had gotten to that point and I was stuck. I was stuck for years. I didn't know where else to go. I laid that whole thing out.
How fast did you get to that point?
That took me like 5 years.
Okay.
But I was at because I had to read every tablet and then cross-reference every single one with every place and every king mentioned, and then try to list them all based on when they lived, based on tiny little clues of who they met along the way and different things, right? But I was stuck. I will admit to people listening to this, I was like stuck. I'm like, I don't understand how does that connect to Atlantis? How does that connect to the megaliths of Peru? How does that connect to the pyramids of Egypt? Like, how does any of this connect? And I feel like in our community, we've been stuck there for a long time, not understanding how any of it connects.
Or we never got there.
Well, no, we didn't until now. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Now let's change history, my friend.
Let's do it. I'm here for it.
So this fell into my lap by some very interesting means, I will say. I don't know how it happened. It just did. I became aware of a site called Zernaki Tepe. And Zernaki Tepe is in eastern Turkey, not that close to Göbekli Tepe. Quite a ways away.
How do you spell it?
Zernaki.
Uh-huh. And then Tepe.
Yep. So Tepe just means mountain or hill.
Yep.
So these are all just different names for that.
Zernaki Tepe, Turkey. I'm going to pull up the map.
Thank you.
We have that. We'll put that in the middle.
Yeah. And that's actually awesome. I want you to click that right there.
Picture.
That mountain, you see the ancient terraces? That entire mountain is a lost civilization.
Underneath it.
They've only excavated 1% of that entire area. Excavations of Zernaki Tepe.
When was this found?
Zernaki Tepe has only been discovered and started to be excavated since 2014. We are
Who found it?
I don't know the name of the person, but I think it was Istanbul University out of Turkey.
No
but they have no idea what it is. They're labeling it as the Eurasian civilization, which in a very similar way to something like the Hittites, were only a later iteration of another culture that came later and built on top of it. Okay?
Okay.
So, this is how basically the whole thing started, is that I became very curious of Zernaki Tepe because of one thing in particular. If you want to click this.
Yeah, I have it open on this other tab right here. I'll put this in the
Or
corner.
if you want to zoom in on the map so you can just see where we are.
Let's start with the picture you
Okay.
have. Because I pulled the map up. I probably have already had that on the screen in the post
so
edit.
there's a lake in eastern Turkey called Lake Van, and it's an absolutely incredible lake. It's one of the most high elevation lakes in the world. In fact, it's very similar to Lake Titicaca, which, if people are familiar with the incredible Tiwanaku civilization at the southern flanks of Lake Titicaca, it's another one of these lost civilizations that's got advanced technology that we don't understand where they came from or who they are.
Lake Titicaca is in which country?
Lake Titicaca spans the border of Bolivia and Peru, and it's the highest navigable lake in the world. Okay? Now, in eastern Turkey is one of the other largest high elevation lakes in the world called Lake Van. No small lake. It is 1,500 feet deep.
A lake.
A lake. Okay?
Christ, what's down
It's like
there?
an
The Loch
entrance
Ness
into the
Monster?
underworld, right? Lake Titicaca is the same thing. Lake Titicaca is over 1,000 feet deep. There seems to be an interest in these like ancient lakes. That's all I can say.
I didn't even know lakes could get that deep.
With volcanoes around them. Now,
Oh.
okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
So I want you to, can you go down? I wanted to click an image on this. Scroll down. Keep going. Right there.
This one.
Right there. Click that.
All right, hold on.
Okay.
I'm gonna open this in a new. The number of tabs I have is.
One of the things that I've been studying for about 6 years straight, and I worked with some of the greatest in the field. I'd say the greatest megalithic expert in terms of studying the architecture of megaliths would be Brian Forrester and then Ben from Uncharted X that we talked about before.
Yeah, that's Danny's boy. By the way, for people out there, if you haven't seen the Concrete podcast with Ben Van Kerwick, which was the first
thank you, Ben
one,
Van Kerwick.
Incredible.
So Ben and Brian and me, we're sort of like we focus on studying the architecture of these incredible megaliths left behind from we team and others like Graham Hancock do, the lost civilizations of Earth. Okay, now when you look at the type of architecture and sophistication of blocks in parts of Egypt, like the Valley Temple, the King's Chamber, and the Great Pyramid of Giza, or in parts of like the Corner Concha around Cusco, Peru, and Machu Picchu, we find evidence of this building technique that is incredibly advanced, using very, very hard rocks in a way where we have no idea how they did it. Ben talks about this a lot in Egypt, how we find saw marks and drill holes in places like Abu Sir and other areas where the tools that they created, not only do we not have never found a single tool, but we have no idea how they did it. Because we know that something like Bronze Age tools from the time period we're told would be too soft to manipulate any of these stones or the level of precision that they are, okay? I want to lay that foundation down. Yeah. So once you know what to look for, you essentially see it all around the world. Not everywhere, but you'll see it in a lot of different ancient parts of the world, like Peru, Bolivia. You see it in some parts of Mexico, like Mitla. You'll see it in like around the Valley Temple and the Great Pyramids of Giza. You see it throughout some parts of Turkey that we haven't talked about, like San Simeon. And you see it in megaliths in parts of Greece. Anyway, there are megaliths in these aspects of these civilizations that are all around the world. And I became very fixated on focusing on what they look like and looking for the telltale evidence of them, okay? That basically became one of the only things we have left, is the whole point I'm trying to make. It's one of the only things we have left to prove that those sophisticated civilizations were there. Because when we're talking about some of the stonework that they did, some of the tight fits we're gonna see in Turkey as well as Egypt, places like in Japan, places like in Peru. I don't believe that we could create what they did today. I really don't think we could.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. Please hit that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.